Hello everybody, I know you all love a good story, and today's is a pretty wild one, and it comes before I was even a YouTuber. Today is the story of by far the longest, strangest, and probably stupidest journey I have ever undertaken. I hope you enjoy it. As ever, today's headline sponsor is the good people at CarVertical. They are the super-powered super search that gives you all the information you need when you're looking to buy a car. It cross-references a number of databases across the globe to bring you information on whether a car was involved in an accident, regardless of whether it was written off or not, if there are any mileage issues to check out any discrepancies, any odd things you should be looking closely at, and even if the car was used as a taxi, and all sorts of other handy things you'll definitely want to know about before you part with your money. For an extra discount, check out my link in the description down below. So, today's story. For this all to make a little bit of sense, we need to give you some context. Wind the clock back. This happened now about 9 years ago. I was a cinematographer. That was my career. That's what I did. If you're not sure what one of those is, it's also called a director of photography. Essentially, I was a cameraman. Now, bear in mind, at this point in time, I was only a few years into my professional career. I was working mostly on small, independent, short films with the odd feature and quite a few music videos too. The project I was working on at this point in time was a music video for my good friend Oggy and his band Taco Lacko. This involved a very complicated shoot in 2 parts in 2 different countries.
Here was the plan. Part 1 of the shoot was at a studio in Copenhagen. Part 2 was on a farm in Serbia. We weren't using my kit much in Denmark, but we were going to use it in Serbia. So we decided the easiest thing would be to drive my kit to Denmark, because I love road trips, and this was the only easy way to get all that kit with just 2 people over there. Joining me on this epic adventure was my gaffer and very good friend Simon. If you've enjoyed my content over the last 6 years, you probably have him to thank. He got out of the film world before me and persuaded me there was a better life outside of it. We planned to shoot in Denmark for 2 days, then put all the kit on a plane, fly to Serbia, film there for 2 days, back to Denmark and home. In theory, simple. In reality, well, you'll see.
I actually thought this all happened in 2013, but I do have some photos from the time, which I'll use to illustrate, and it was in fact almost 10 years ago to the day, which is really quite tragic. So, we had this genius idea for how to do everything nicely and smoothly. I owned a whole bunch of camera kit at the time, and we were going to use that camera kit to film in both Denmark and Serbia. For the stuff in Denmark, we were using a studio. We were going to be doing some high-speed stuff, and the camera that I owned at the time didn't really do high speed. So we were going to hire an Arri Alexa, which was at the time a relatively new thing, much better at high speed than my Sony f900. We also did this big lighting setup thing, which was absolutely nuts, because we were shooting in somewhere like the size of kind of like a medium-sized living room. And it was the old days, so we had tungsten lights, no LEDs, nothing like that. And we had 50 kilowatts of light in that room. Every sort of 15 minutes, I would go outside, grab a bottle of water, pour a bottle on my head, and within 10 minutes, I would be dry. That is how insanely hot it was. So, the whole first half of the shoot and everything went absolutely fine. Brilliant, loved it, had a whale of a time, one of the wildest shoots I've ever been on, and was just thoroughly enjoyable. That was my film career at its peak. Everything was really, really cool. The second part is where things got a little bit more interesting, because we took nearly the entire cast and crew and decamped over to Serbia, where there was a farm that my friend's family kind of had, and this was going to be the backdrop for the other half of the music video. The band, by the way, plays sort of Balkan fusion music, so it was very much a good reason for going over to Serbia and filming it. All fit in sort of part of the song. There were a few things that proved interesting before we even got to Serbia. The first was that we were trying to get about 9 cases, I think I had, of camera kit onto a regular commercial flight. And that was interesting, but we had friends at the airport and everything had been kind of sorted, so that went relatively smoothly. Unfortunately, when we got to Serbia, it turns out there was a bit of an error because we thought we could simply take all the camera kit there and be fine. Previously, that had been true, and all we would have originally had to do was simply sign a couple of pieces of paper, say, yes, we brought a load of camera kit, we're going away with it in 2 days, it's all fine. But that legislation had changed, and we had to technically import all my camera kit. Now, my kit was worth something like a 50 or 60 grand at the time, and we were a little bit concerned that we were going to have to pay taxes on that and then export it, claim the taxes back, and this was going to involve thousands and thousands of pounds that we did not have. Luckily, some people out there managed to grease the wheels of business, and my camera kit essentially sat in the airport in Belgrade for a day, doing nothing, going nowhere. Customs didn't even open it. We'd wrapped and packed everything in bubble wrap and all that, and none of it was opened. Not a single box. We could have been transporting anything. They did not care. So, did the shoot, everything was fine. But, though the shoot all went very well, we knew that the exit was going to be a little complicated. You see, when you move equipment all over the place, things do get a little bit tricky. The main thing you come up against is people wanting to make sure that you do actually own the kit that you own. You haven't just bought it somewhere else and you're trying to dodge tax. Anyone that's flown anywhere sort of outside the EU and stuff like that, you'll know about carnets and all this sort of stuff, which is what I thought we would have to fill out. And we probably should have filled out, but I've been told we didn't. Driving from Britain to Denmark at the time was nice and easy. No one worried, nobody cared, it was fine. But the Denmark to Serbia bit was the issue. Because we'd come through customs in the country, we needed to go through customs to get out. This way, when we landed in Denmark, they wouldn't think we've gone over to Serbia and bought a load of cheap camera kit and are trying to sneak it through without paying any taxes. This is where the journey begins. Once again, my cat has impeccable timing. She's been outside the room up until now. Hello, Florence. Hello. Yes, how are you doing? Do you want to say hello to everyone, Florence? Hello. Ow! Ow! You're very spiky today. You doing all right? You don't feel very comfortable there. I mean, do you want to? Don't get on my keyboard. And definitely don't get your claws. There you go. There you go. Okay. All right. You just. Ah! Here's what we had to do. I had to get up in the morning, take all my camera kit over to Belgrade, drop it at customs, wait for them to approve everything and say, yep, cool, you can leave the country with all this stuff, and then get on a plane, go home. The journey begins at 6 a.m. I wake up on a farm in the middle of Serbia, a country I do not know very well, with a language I do not speak. I, with all of my camera kit, my worldly possessions, and bundled onto this small minivan with a driver who does not speak a word of English, and he takes me to Belgrade, about 2 or 3 hour journey through the Serbian countryside, which is actually very, very picturesque. In order to ease me and make sure I feel nice and safe, he puts on a film, and the film he has chosen is The Hitcher with Rutger Hauer. So I'm in a strange country, with a language I don't know, a person I don't know, driving a van, watching a horror movie about somebody being stalked and terrorised across a country. It's a good start to the day. Come about, I think, 8, 9 o'clock, we get to the airport. I'm essentially dropped off with a letter in my hand that is written in Serbian. I don't know what it says. I'm told it kind of explains my situation. I'm roughly pointed where to go. I go into the airport, all my kit's kind of been dropped off, and I'm in what I think is the customs office, and it's amazing. It's like a scene from Life on Mars. There were metal filing cabinets everywhere. The one computer they seemed to have was definitely running Windows 95, and everybody was still smoking in the airport, indoors. Nuts. I hand this letter over to these people. They look at it, don't really acknowledge me or anything. They go off, and eventually our fixer appears. He tells me, yes, everything's fine, but you need to go to this flat in Belgrade to kind of wait it out while customs deal with everything, and then they'll call and they'll tell you that everything is good. Fine. So I go into Belgrade. I get dropped off at about 10, 11. I remember we went into a little sort of patisserie, grabbed a couple of donuts, which kept me going for the next few hours. And I'm sat in this flat on my own in the middle of Belgrade with them old laptop, dodgy internet connection, and it's a case of kind of like, well, wait until we give you a call. So I'm sat there, I'm waiting, and eventually the call comes through. Yep, your stuff has cleared customs, head over to the airport. So we head over to said airport, and it's about 3 o'clock or so, and I think our flight was booked for about 4 or something like that. And when we get there, we find all the kit, everything's sorted, everything's dandy, we are good to go. Then we're sat waiting in the lounge, sign comes up. No, flight has been delayed. Okay, all right, give it another half an hour. Wait. No, flight delayed. And you know what airports are like, you know, if it's 5 minutes until the flight's supposed to go out and they haven't called you for boarding, that plane's not going. We eventually get to about 8:30, I think, 9 o'clock. My friend turns to me and he says, if the next time they change that board, it's not to say we're leaving now, we aren't getting home tonight. I needed to be home. My gaffer, Simon, who travelled with me, he needed to be home. My lovely assistant, Sarah, she needed to be home. My even lovelier sound man, Simon, he needed to be home. It was a bit stressful. Everyone had jobs to do, everyone had somewhere to be, and none of them needed to be in the airport at Belgrade. About 8:30, 9 o'clock or so, the board changes, bang, we're on, get on the plane, go. This is an airline called Jet Airlines, and I'm told that it was once upon a time Yugoslav Airlines when Yugoslavia was a thing. My friend apparently found all this quite amusing because he told me that the uniforms that they wore were the same as the uniforms they had when it was still Yugoslav Air, and I think the planes were the same. I'm pretty sure I remember that airline had the distinction of being one of the few that's actually had somebody born on board. We also remember it very well because the in-flight meal was a sandwich, packet sandwich thing. And we sort of played this game of guess the meat. We all figured it was ham, maybe a beef. It turned out it was chicken, which is quite disturbing because it was pink. And my gaffer Simon had fallen asleep on the flight back. So what we did was we all got handed sandwiches, and you didn't really get a choice in the matter. You kind of just got handed the sandwich, and the lady would stare at you until you took it. It wasn't like, would you like a sandwich? It was like, here's the sandwich you're going to take and eat. So we'd got all of our sandwiches. He'd fallen asleep, and we put all the sandwiches on his little tray. So when the lady came back through, she looked at him with utter and total disgust at the 3 sandwiches he'd hoarded and not eaten. Anyway, we then eventually arrive back in Copenhagen airport, I think around about 11 o'clock or so. Maybe a bit early, maybe 10. Here's the thing though, we were not staying in Copenhagen that night. Our hotel wasn't even in Denmark. It was in Bremen, in Germany, 300 miles and a ferry trip away. I was in my 2005 BMW E46 330ci Club Sport, car I loved greatly. So we thought, you know what, we've got the ferry booked, we've got our ferry home booked as well. Everything is arranged, everything is sorted for today. We need to leave today. The ferries run through the night to get us from Denmark to Germany, and then the other side, that's okay, we have plenty of time to do that. So we decide, sod it, let's do it. I've been up since 6 o'clock, it's now near midnight. I was young, I was stupid. We decided to go for it. We got in the car, loaded it up, and this thing was packed to the rafters with all this camera kit. It was hilarious. So we drove, got down to the ferry. I think we maybe got about 10-15 minutes kip on the ferry. That was probably about it. Got into Germany, drove, and I pinned that car. There was still a reasonable amount of de-restricted autobahn back then. It's the usual thing, bit of roadworks, bit of de-restricted, bit of normal speed limit. And I distinctly remember doing max speed, about 150, and in that car it was sketchy. My 911 and stuff like that, they're fine at higher speeds with the aero kit and everything, but the E46 had the silly little M-Tech rear wing on the back. I don't think that did anything aerodynamically. We were driving, we were pinned, and it was in the fog, and I just decided at the time, I was like, well, I'm doing 100 mile an hour, you can't see anything, you'll get killed. You may as well do 150 mile an hour and get killed quicker. It was a stupid idea. It was a dumb thing. It was moronic. Don't do it. It was daft. I should point out it was like 2 a.m. by this point in time, and you could see that there weren't really lights ahead, so it wasn't maybe quite as daft as it sounds, but it was stupid. Yeah, it was as daft as it sounds. Eventually, somehow, at about 4 o'clock, we finally managed to roll in to the hotel. We got there and we were like the living dead. The lady at reception looked at us like, we didn't think you were coming. We thought you guys weren't turning up here. And we booked to have a stop off in Amsterdam the day after as well, because Simon had never seen Amsterdam. I quite like Amsterdam. It's a beautiful place. There's many local attractions. And yeah, we spent about 4 hours in bed and then we carried on. It was entertaining, it was quite memorable, and I'm very glad that we did it because it resulted in one of the pieces of work that I am the most proud of. Fantastic music video that I don't think is even online anymore, but I was really, really proud of that, and it was a very, very happy memory and a great journey, or certainly one that I will remember for a very, very long time. So, if you've enjoyed today's video, a very different kind of story, a little bit of a throwback with some car stuff in there, do let me know. If you thought it was incredibly boring, also tell me and I shan't do it again. But hope you did enjoy it. A big thanks to you as ever for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button, comment down below, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you all for the next one. Bye-bye.